The chamber stretched upward into darkness, its walls lined with viewing screens that displayed 1,000 different worlds. Ambassador Thalvin Court stood at the center, his four eyes scanning the data streaming across the holographic displays. He had seen this ritual 43 times before. Another primitive species, another evaluation, another integration into the Galactic Council. But something felt different this time. Counselor Prime Zendara materialized beside him, her form shimmering with bioluminescence. "You have reviewed the file on species 7-394? She asked. Her voice carried the weight of authority that came from leading the council for 6 centuries. "I have," Thalvin replied. He gestured toward the largest screen, where a blue and green planet rotated slowly. "They call it Earth. They call themselves humans." "And your assessment?" Thalvin had spent 3 weeks studying humanity. He had watched their wars, their destruction, their tendency to solve problems with violence. He had also seen their art, their music, their literature. The contradiction troubled him more than he wanted to admit. "They are dangerous," he said finally. "But they show potential." Zendara moved closer to the display. Images of human cities flickered past, towering structures of glass and steel, vehicles moving in organized chaos, millions of individuals going about their brief lives. They have split the atom. They have touched their moon. They have created artificial intelligence, and they did all of this in less than 200 of their years. "Reckless speed," Thalvin said. "Most species take 2,000 years to achieve such things, yet they achieved it nonetheless." Thalvin turned to face the Counselor Prime. "You want me to recommend integration?" "I want you to tell the truth," Zendara said, "as you always have. That is why you have never failed in 43 assignments." The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of the displays. Thalvin looked at the planet again. Humans lived such short lives. Barely a century if they were lucky. How could a species accomplish so much in such little time? How could they build, create, and dream when death waited around every corner? "There is something else," Zendara said. She waved her hand and the displays changed. Now they showed humans in laboratories, humans in hospitals, humans in schools. They have no genetic modifications, no neural implants, no enhanced biology. Everything they have achieved came from their natural minds. Thalvin felt a flicker of something he had not experienced in decades. Was it respect? Impossible. He was Velshara. His people had evolved beyond such primitive emotions. They had engineered themselves into perfection over 10,000 years. They did not feel respect for species that still died of disease and old age. "When do I depart?" he asked. "Your vessel is ready. You will arrive in their system within 1 week. We have prepared the standard first contact package, mathematical proofs, universal constants, the basic framework for communication." Thalvin nodded. He had done this before. He would arrive, make contact, spend a few months evaluating their culture and technology, then return with his recommendation. Simple. Routine. He had no reason to think this assignment would be any different from the previous 43, but as he walked toward the departure bay, he found himself looking at the images of Earth one more time. There was something in the eyes of the humans he had seen, something his people had lost long ago. He could not name it. He was not sure he wanted to. His vessel awaited him in the docking ring. It was a small diplomatic ship, designed for one occupant and equipped with every tool he might need for first contact. Translation software, cultural databases, defense systems in case the natives proved hostile. In 43 missions, he had only needed the weapons once. He hoped humans would not make it 44. As the vessel powered up, Thalvin accessed the human database one final time. He wanted to understand what drove these creatures, why they built when they knew their buildings would outlast them, why they created art that would be enjoyed by generations they would never meet, why they explored when they knew they might never return. The database showed him a human scientist named Han Ji-woo, a male from the nation-state called South Korea. He was leading their faster-than-light research program. According to the reports, his team was close to a breakthrough. Very close. That was why the council had decided to make contact now. Before humans developed FTL technology on their own, before they spread into the galaxy without guidance, before they could become a threat, or perhaps before they could become something else entirely. Thalvin watched a video of Dr. Han Jiwoo explaining his work to other humans. The man's eyes shone with excitement as he described bending space-time, creating stable wormholes, traveling faster than light itself. He spoke of visiting other stars, meeting other species, learning from civilizations older than humanity could imagine. "We are not alone," Dr. Han Jiwoo said in the video. And that thought should not scare us. It should inspire us. Because if we are not alone, then there is so much more to learn, so much more to discover, so much more to become. Thalvin paused the video. He studied the human's face. Dr. Han Jiwoo would die in perhaps 70 more years. His body would decay. His mind would fade. Everything he was would cease to exist. Yet he worked with such passion, such drive, such hope. Why? The question bothered Thalvin as his vessel launched from the docking ring. It bothered him as he entered faster-than-light travel. It bothered him during the week-long journey to Earth's solar system. His people had conquered death centuries ago. Genetic engineering allowed Velshara to live for thousands of years. Their minds were enhanced with neural implants that never degraded. They had eliminated disease, aging, and physical weakness. Yet they had also eliminated something else. Something he could see in Dr. Han Jiwoo's eyes but could not name. As Earth grew larger in his view screen, Thalvin prepared himself for first contact. He reviewed the protocols. He studied human language and customs. He examined their political structures and social hierarchies. He was ready, or so he thought. What Thalvin did not know, what he could not have known, was that he was about to meet a species that would change everything he believed about life, death, and what it meant to truly be alive. He was about to discover that sometimes the most advanced civilizations are the ones that never forget what it means to be mortal. His vessel entered Earth's atmosphere, and Ambassador Thalvin Court began a journey that would break him in ways he never imagined possible. The International Space Collaboration Station hung in orbit like a silver star against the darkness. Thalvin positioned his vessel 300 kilometers away and waited. Protocol demanded that he allow the natives to detect him first. It reduced panic. It gave them a sense of control. The wait lasted 47 minutes. His communications panel came alive with signals, radio waves, microwave transmissions, laser communications. The humans were trying everything at once. Thalvin almost smiled at their enthusiasm. Most species sent one careful message and waited. Humans sent 100 different messages simultaneously, as if afraid silence might make him disappear. He responded with the standard first contact sequence, a series of prime numbers, mathematical constants, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, universal truths that any intelligent species would recognize. The human messages stopped immediately. Then, 3 minutes later, a single transmission came through. It was elegant, precise. A mathematical proof of the Pythagorean theorem followed by a simple question. "Can you understand this?" Thalvin felt that strange flicker again. Respect. He pushed it aside and responded, "Yes." The reply came faster than he expected. "Will you speak with us?" "I will." Within an hour, he was docking with the space station. The airlock cycled. The door opened, and Thalvin got his first direct look at a human being. Dr. Park Minho stood in the docking bay wearing a simple white suit. He was shorter than Thalvin, expected, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. The man held no weapons. He showed no fear. He simply smiled and extended his hand. "Welcome to humanity's home," Dr. Park said. "We have been waiting for this moment for a very long time." Thalvin studied the extended hand. His database indicated this was a greeting gesture, a sign of peaceful intent. He reached out with one of his 3-fingered appendages and grasped it. The human's hand was warm, soft, fragile. Thalvin could have crushed it without effort. Yet Dr. Park gripped firmly, meeting Thalvin's eyes without hesitation. I am Ambassador Thalvin Court of the Galactic Council, he said. I have come to evaluate your species. Evaluate? Dr. Park's smile faltered slightly. Like a test? An assessment, to determine if humanity is ready to join the larger galactic community. Dr. Park nodded slowly. And if we are not ready? Then I will recommend your world remain isolated until you are. The human was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled again, though this time it looked sadder. Then I suppose we should show you our best. Please follow me. The space station was smaller than Thalvin expected, but efficiently designed. Humans moved through the corridors with practiced ease, working in the artificial gravity without any apparent discomfort. They stopped to stare at him as he passed. Some looked afraid. Others looked excited. All of them looked curious. Dr. Park led him to a conference room where more humans waited. Ambassador. Choi Yuna stood at the head of the table. She was older than Dr. Park, with silver streaking through her dark hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of long years of hard work. Ambassador Thalvin, she said, bowing slightly, on behalf of the people of Earth, I welcome you. We have prepared a presentation on human achievements if you would like to see it. For the next 3 hours, Thalvin watched as humans explained their history. They did not hide their flaws. They showed him their wars, their genocides, their environmental destruction. But they also showed him their art, their music, their literature, their desperate, beautiful attempts to be better than they were. We are not perfect, Ambassador Choi said as the presentation ended. We know this. We have made terrible mistakes, but we are trying to learn from them. We are trying to grow. Thalvin made notes in his neural implant. Everything Ambassador Choi said matched the data in his files. Nothing here surprised him. Humans were violent, yes, but they were also creative. They destroyed, but they also built. It was the same contradiction he had seen in dozens of other species. I would like to visit your planet, he said, to see your civilization directly. Of course, Ambassador Choi replied. Where would you like to begin? With your fusion research facility. I understand Dr. Han Ji-woo works there. Ambassador Choi exchanged a glance with Dr. Park. Something passed between them, an understanding that Thalvin could not read. We can arrange that, she said carefully. Though I should warn you, Dr. Han can be intense about his work. 2 days later, Thalvin stood in a laboratory in South Korea. The facility was built into the side of a mountain, buried deep beneath rock and earth. Security was tight. The technology was impressive, but what caught Thalvin's attention was the man at the center of it. All Dr. Han Ji-woo looked exactly like he did in the videos. Young, energetic, his eyes bright with the same passion Thalvin had seen before. He was explaining his fusion reactor to a group of younger humans, his hands moving rapidly as he described plasma containment and magnetic fields. When he noticed Thalvin, he stopped mid-sentence. His eyes went wide. Then, to Thalvin's surprise, he laughed. You are real, Dr. Han said, walking closer. I mean, we knew you were real. We detected your ship. We spoke to you. But seeing you here in my laboratory, it is different. You are real. I am, Thalvin confirmed. And you want to see what we have built? Yes, Dr. Han's grin grew wider. Then let me show you something beautiful. For the next 6 hours, Dr. Han showed Thalvin everything. The fusion reactor, the magnetic containment system, the energy output measurements, the safety protocols. He explained each system in detail, answering Thalvin's questions with enthusiasm and precision. What disturbed Thalvin was how good it all was. The fusion reactor was not primitive. It was not crude. It was elegant, efficient. The magnetic containment system used a method that the Galactic Council had only discovered 800 years ago. Yet humans had developed it independently in less than a decade. How? Thalvin asked finally. How did you solve the plasma instability problem? Dr. Han smiled. We failed a lot. Hundreds of times, thousands, but each failure taught us something. Each mistake showed us what not to do. Eventually, we found what worked. You did not have guidance from older species. You did not have advanced computer simulations. You simply tried until it worked. That is the human way, Dr. Han said. We are very good at being stubborn. Thalvin looked at the reactor again. In Velshara culture, such trial and error methods were considered inefficient. They used computer models to predict outcomes before building anything. They eliminated failure through perfect planning. But looking at Dr. Han Jiwoo's fusion reactor, Thalvin had to admit that sometimes inefficiency produced remarkable results. "You said you are close to faster-than-light travel," Thalvin said. Dr. Han's expression changed, became more serious. "Yes, very close. Another year, perhaps two. We will bend space itself. We will travel to the stars, and then we will explore. We will learn. We will meet others like you." Dr. Han paused. "We will show the universe that humanity deserves a place among the stars." That night, back in his quarters on the space station, Thalvin reviewed his notes. Everything pointed to a species that was advancing rapidly. Perhaps too rapidly. They had the technology, but did they have the wisdom? They had the capability, but did they have the restraint? He did not know yet. But he was beginning to suspect that evaluating humanity would not be as simple as his previous 43 assignments. Something about these short-lived, fragile creatures unsettled him. Something he could not quite identify. Thalvin spent the next 2 months traveling across Earth. Ambassador Choi arranged everything: transportation, accommodations, access to whatever facilities or people he wanted to see. The humans were eager to impress him. Perhaps too eager. He visited factories where humans and robots worked side by side. He toured agricultural facilities that fed billions. He observed their cities, their transportation systems, their communication networks. Everything was impressive in its own crude way, but nothing prepared him for the hospital. Dr. Shin Hyeji worked at Seoul National University Hospital in the oncology department. She was young, barely 30 years old, but already recognized as one of humanity's leading cancer researchers. Ambassador Choi had suggested Thalvin visit her laboratory to see human medical technology. What he saw instead changed something inside him. Dr. Shin was not in her laboratory when Thalvin arrived. She was in a patient room, sitting beside an elderly man who was clearly dying. The man's body was failing. His skin was pale. His breathing was labored. Every medical scanner in the room confirmed what Thalvin could see with his own eyes. This human would be dead within days. Yet Dr. Shin sat there, holding his hand, speaking softly to him. She was not treating him. She was not running tests. She was simply being present. "Dr. Shin?" A nurse appeared at the door. "The ambassador is here." Dr. Shin looked up. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. "I will be there in a moment." She turned back to the old man. "I have to go, Mr. Lee, but I will come back tomorrow." "I promise," the old man smiled weakly. "You do not have to. I know you are busy. You matter to me," Dr. Shin said simply, "so I will be here." She left the room and met Thalvin in the corridor. She wiped her eyes quickly as if embarrassed by her tears. "I apologize for keeping you waiting, Ambassador. That patient has been with me for 3 years. I wanted to spend a few minutes with him." "You cannot save him," Thalvin observed. It was not a question. The scans were clear. "No," Dr. Shin agreed. "I cannot. But I can make sure he does not die alone." This confused Thalvin. "Is that not inefficient? You could be conducting research. Treating patients you can save. Why spend time with someone who is already dying?" Dr. Shin looked at him for a long moment. "Because he is a person, Ambassador. And every person deserves to be treated with dignity, even at the end, especially at the end." She led him to her laboratory and showed him her research. Her team was working on treatments that could target cancer cells while leaving healthy cells undamaged. The technology was promising. In Velshara medical databases, Thalvin found similar research that had taken 200 years to develop. Dr. Shin's team had done it in 12, but he kept thinking about the old man in the hospital room, about Dr. Shin holding his hand, about her tears. In Velshara culture, medical care was a transaction, a service provided in exchange for compensation. Doctors treated patients efficiently and moved on. There was no emotional attachment, no tears, no hand-holding. It was logical, practical, efficient. So why did it suddenly feel empty? The next day, Ambassador Choi took him to an elementary school. Teacher Kwon Tae-young greeted them at the entrance with a warm smile. He was younger than Thalvin expected for an educator, probably in his late 20s, with an easy manner that put the children at ease. "The students are excited to meet you," Kwon Tae-young said. "We have been studying space and the possibility of alien life. They have many questions. Talvin entered the classroom and found 30 small humans staring at him with wide eyes. Some looked scared. Others looked fascinated. One small girl in the front row raised her hand immediately. "Yes?" Talvin said. "Do you have friends?" the girl asked. The question caught him off guard. "I have colleagues, associates. But do you have friends? People you care about even when they cannot help you?" Talvin thought about this. In Velshara culture, relationships were based on mutual benefit, alliances, partnerships. He had colleagues he respected. But friends? "I do not think I understand your question," he admitted. The girl frowned. "That makes me sad for you." Teacher Quan Taeyang smiled gently. "What Minji means is that humans value relationships for their own sake. Not because they are useful, but because they bring us joy." For the next hour, Talvin watched Quan Taeyang teach. The lesson was about mathematics, but the method was strange. Instead of downloading the information directly into the children's brains, Quan Taeyang made them work through problems themselves. They made mistakes. They struggled. Some of them failed repeatedly, and yet they kept trying. "Why not use neural implants?" Talvin asked during a break. "You could teach them everything they need to know in a fraction of the time." Quan Taeyang shook his head. "Learning is not just about acquiring information, Ambassador. It is about developing the ability to think, to solve problems, to fail and try again. If we give children all the answers, we rob them of the joy of discovery. But it is inefficient. Perhaps. But we are not trying to create efficient machines. We are trying to create thoughtful human beings." That evening, Talvin attended an art exhibition. Artist Bei Sioyun had agreed to show him her work. She was in her 40s, with paint stains on her hands and an intensity in her eyes that reminded him of Dr. Han Ji-woo. Her art was unlike anything in the Velshara cultural archives, paintings that seemed to capture multiple emotions simultaneously. Sculptures that looked different from every angle. Digital installations that responded to the viewer's presence. "What do you think?" Bei Sioyun asked as Talvin studied a large canvas covered in swirling colors. "I do not understand it," he admitted. "Good," she said. "Art is not meant to be understood. It is meant to be felt. But what purpose does it serve?" Bei Sioyun laughed. "What purpose does a sunset serve? What purpose does music serve? What purpose does love serve? Not everything needs a purpose, Ambassador. Some things simply are." Talvin looked at the painting again. He tried to feel something. Anything. But his neural implants had long ago regulated his emotional responses. He could appreciate the technical skill, the use of color and form. But feel? He realized with disturbing clarity that he had forgotten how. That night, Captain Lee Nari took him into orbit aboard her spacecraft. She was younger than most military commanders he had met, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had earned her position through skill rather than politics. "I wanted to show you something," she said as they reached the proper altitude. She turned the spacecraft so Earth filled the viewing port. The planet rotated slowly below them, showing oceans and continents, clouds and lights from human cities. The sun was setting over the Pacific Ocean, painting the atmosphere in shades of orange and gold. "Beautiful, is it not?" Captain Lee Nari said softly. "It is aesthetically pleasing," Talvin agreed. "That is not what I mean. Look at it, Ambassador. Really look. That is home. That is where every human who has ever lived was born. Every story, every song, every moment of love and hate and hope and despair. All of it happened there." Talvin looked. He tried to see what she saw. "You are aware that billions of other planets have similar stories. I know. That is what makes it even more incredible. All those worlds, all those stories, and we are about to become part of that larger narrative." She turned to face him.
"We are not trying to reach the stars because we want to conquer them, Ambassador.
We want to reach them because we want to understand them, to learn from them, to be part of something bigger than ourselves." As they returned to the space station, Talvin found himself troubled. In 2 months, he had seen extraordinary technology, impressive achievements, rapid progress. But what disturbed him most was not what humans had built. It was what they felt while building it. Talvin had seen enough. He had visited laboratories and hospitals. He had observed classrooms and art galleries. He had studied human culture from every angle his training suggested. His assessment was nearly complete. In another week, he would return to the Galactic Council with his recommendation, but there was one final test. "I need to see humanity in crisis," he told Ambassador Choi. "Every Species shows its true nature when survival is threatened. I need to know how humans respond to disaster. Ambassador Choi looked uncomfortable. You want us to create an emergency? No. I will wait for one to occur naturally. Your planet experiences natural disasters regularly. Earthquakes, storms, volcanic eruptions. I will observe one. And if nothing happens during your remaining time here, then I will extend my stay. As if the universe heard his request, the earthquake struck 3 days later. Thalvin was in Seoul when it happened. The ground began to shake at 2:47 in the afternoon. It started as a gentle rumble, barely noticeable. Then the shaking intensified. Buildings swayed, windows shattered. Car alarms wailed, people screamed. Thalvin's vessel immediately transmitted emergency protocols to his neural implant. Get to safety, protect himself, monitor the situation from a secure location. Standard procedure for observing species in crisis. He was making his way to his transport when he saw the rescue coordinator arrive. Oh Jinwoo jumped out of an emergency vehicle before it fully stopped. He was not young, probably in his 50s with gray in his hair and old scars on his hands. He immediately began directing people away from damaged buildings, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. Move quickly but do not run, he called out. Help those who cannot walk. Stay away from the buildings. Another tremor shook the ground. A building to Thalvin's left began to collapse. Oh Jinwoo saw it happening and ran toward it rather than away. Is anyone inside? He shouted. Is anyone trapped? A woman called back. My daughter. She went back for her cat. Please, she is only 8 years old. Oh Jinwoo did not hesitate. He ran into the collapsing building. Thalvin watched, his neural implant calculating the odds of survival. 17%. The building would come down within minutes. No rational being would enter it. Yet Oh Jinwoo entered anyway. More emergency workers arrived. They established a perimeter. They began search and rescue operations. They worked with practiced efficiency, checking collapsed structures, pulling survivors from rubble, treating injuries on the spot. Thalvin observed from a safe distance, taking notes. This was what he needed to see, how humans responded when their civilization fractured, whether they would panic, whether they would turn on each other, whether their thin veneer of cooperation would shatter under pressure. Instead, he saw something else entirely. A woman named An Sora emerged from the crowd. She was not wearing a uniform. She had no training visible in her movements. She was simply a civilian who happened to be nearby when disaster struck. But when she heard that a child was trapped in a building 2 blocks away, she did not wait for official rescuers. She ran toward the danger. Thalvin followed, his anthropological instincts overriding his survival protocols. He needed to understand. He needed to see what would drive an untrained, unequipped human to run toward a collapsing building. The structure was an apartment complex, 5 stories tall. The earthquake had sheared off one entire side, leaving rooms exposed like a dollhouse. Fires burned on the 2nd floor. The remaining walls groaned and shifted. Every sensor Thalvin had screamed that this building would collapse completely within 10 minutes. An Sora entered through a ground floor window. Thalvin heard her calling out. Hello, can anyone hear me? I am here to help, a child's voice answered. I am here. I am scared. I am coming to you. Keep talking so I can find you. Thalvin activated his vessel's sensors and tracked An Sora's progress through the building. She climbed over debris. She crawled through spaces barely large enough for her body. She moved toward the child's voice with single-minded determination. She found the boy on the 3rd floor. His name was Kang Minseo, and he was trapped under a collapsed bookshelf. His leg was pinned. He could not move. An Sora began lifting debris piece by piece, clearing a path to reach him. Another tremor shook the building. More of the structure gave way. Thalvin's sensors updated their predictions. 5 minutes until total collapse. Perhaps less. You need to leave, Thalvin transmitted through a speaker drone he sent into the building. The structure will not hold. You will die if you stay. An Sora looked up at the drone. Her face was covered in dust and blood from a cut on her forehead. Not without the child. The probability of successfully rescuing him is less than 3%. The probability of your death is 97%. This is not logical. I am not a computer, Ambassador. I do not care about probabilities. She turned back to the child and kept working. She moved a large piece of concrete, then another. The building groaned. Support beams began to fail. Thalvin calculated that she had perhaps 2 minutes. "Please," he said, and was surprised by the emotion in his own voice. "Please leave. You cannot save him." Ansora finally freed the child's leg. She pulled him out from under the bookshelf and lifted him in her arms. "Yes, I can." She began moving toward the exit. But the building had other plans. A support column failed. The floor above them collapsed. Debris rained down. Ansora threw her body over Kang Min-seo, shielding him with her own flesh. When the dust cleared, she was buried under rubble. But her arms were still wrapped around the child, and Kang Min-seo was alive. Emergency workers arrived seconds later. They pulled the boy free. He was crying, calling for his mother, but he would survive. They dug through the debris to reach Ansora. When they pulled her out, Thalvin could see immediately that she would not live. Her body was broken. Her breathing was shallow. Blood pooled beneath her. Yet when the rescuers laid her down, she smiled. "Is he okay?" she whispered. "The boy. Is he safe?" "He is safe," one of the rescuers said, tears streaming down his face. "Because of you." Ansora's smile widened. "Tell him he matters. Tell him his life is important. Tell him." Her voice faded. Her eyes closed. And then she was gone. Thalvin stood there, staring at her body. His neural implants processed what he had witnessed. They categorized it, analyzed it, attempted to fit it into logical frameworks. But nothing made sense. Why would someone die for a stranger? What evolutionary advantage did such behavior provide? How could a species survive if its members threw away their lives so easily? In the days that followed, Thalvin watched the recovery efforts. He saw humans digging through rubble with their bare hands. He saw them sharing food and water with strangers. He saw them grieving together, regardless of nationality or religion or social class. He attended Ansora's funeral. Hundreds of people came. Most of them had never met her. They came because they heard what she had done, because her sacrifice meant something to them. Young Kang Min-seo was there with his mother. The boy was quiet, still processing what had happened. But when the service ended, he approached Thalvin. "Are you the ambassador?" The boy asked. "I am. Did you see what happened? What she did for me?" "Yes." Kang Min-seo looked down at his hands. "My mom said Miss An did not have to save me. She said Miss An chose to, even though it meant she would die." "That is correct. Why would someone do that?" Thalvin had been asking himself the same question for days. He had analyzed the data. He had reviewed his observations. He had consulted every database in his neural implants. And finally, standing there looking at this small human child, he understood. "Because you matter," Thalvin said softly. "She did it because every life matters, even if saving that life costs everything." That night, Thalvin returned to his quarters and did something he had not done in centuries. He sat in the darkness and allowed himself to feel. He felt grief for Ansora. He felt awe at her courage. He felt shame at his own people's cold efficiency. The Velshara had eliminated suffering by eliminating deep emotion. They lived for thousands of years, but they did not truly live. They existed. They functioned. They endured. But they had forgotten what it meant to care so much about someone that you would die for them. Humans lived barely a century. They were fragile. They broke easily. They died from things that would barely inconvenience a Velshara. But in their brief, desperate lives, they loved with an intensity that could move mountains. They cared with a passion that could change worlds. Thalvin finally understood why humans achieved so much in so little time. It was not luck. It was not recklessness. It was because every moment mattered to them. Because they knew their time was limited, they refused to waste it. 6 months had passed since Thalvin arrived on Earth. His assessment was complete. His observations were recorded. His data was organized and ready for presentation to the Galactic Council. It was time to return home. Ambassador Choi organized a farewell ceremony at the space station. It was small and informal, nothing like the elaborate departures Thalvin had experienced on other worlds. Just a few humans who had spent time with him during his stay. People who had somehow become more than research subjects. Dr. Park Min-ho arrived first. He brought a gift which surprised Thalvin. Gifts were not part of standard first contact protocol. "This contains some of our music, poetry, and literature," Dr. Park said, handing him a data storage device. "I thought you might want to understand us better. Not through observations, but through our own words." Thalvin took the device carefully. "Thank you. I will study it." Dr. Park smiled, though it looked sad. "I hope you will not just study it, Ambassador. I hope you will feel it." Captain Lee Nari came next. She stood at attention and saluted, then relaxed into a more casual stance. "The stars are big enough for all of us," she said. "I hope the Council remembers that." "I will convey your message," Thalvin replied. "Will you come back?" Captain Lee Nari asked. "After you deliver your report, will you visit us again?" Thalvin did not know how to answer that. He did not know what his report would recommend. He did not know if the Council would allow humanity to join the galactic community. He did not even know if he wanted them to. "I do not know," he admitted. Dr. Han Jiwoo arrived late, as usual. He looked tired. His team had been working around the clock on their faster-than-light drive. They were close to a breakthrough, perhaps weeks away. "We will see you out there," Dr. Han said confidently. "Whether the Council approves or not, we will reach the stars. It might take us longer without guidance, but we will get there." "I do not doubt that," Thalvin said, and he meant it. Dr. Shin Hiji came with news about her patient. Mr. Lee, the old man Thalvin had seen in the hospital, had passed away 3 days ago, peacefully, with his family around him, and with Dr. Shin holding his hand just as she promised. "He asked about you before he died," Dr. Shin said. "He wanted to know if you understood why we do what we do, why we care for the dying even when we cannot save them." "Do you think I understand?" Thalvin asked. Dr. Shin looked at him carefully. "I think you are beginning to." Teacher Kwan Taeyang brought his students drawings. 30 pictures of Thalvin, each one different, each one showing how a child saw him. Some drew him as scary, others as friendly. One small girl, Minji, had drawn him with a smile and written beneath it, "I hope you find friends." Thalvin looked at that drawing for a long time. Artist Bae Seoyeon was the last to arrive. She did not bring a gift. She simply looked at him and asked, "Did you feel anything? During your time here, did you feel anything at all?" Thalvin thought about Ansora dying in the rubble, about young Kang Minseo asking why someone would sacrifice themselves for a stranger, about Dr. Shin crying beside her patient, about Dr. Han's passion for reaching the stars, about all the small moments of joy and pain and hope and despair he had witnessed. "Yes," he said quietly. "I felt everything," Bae Seoyeon smiled. "Then our world has already changed you." The farewells completed, Thalvin boarded his vessel. Ambassador Choi walked him to the airlock. She was quiet for a moment, then spoke carefully. "Whatever you tell the Council, Ambassador, please remember that we are trying. We make mistakes, we fail. We hurt each other and ourselves. But we are always trying to be better than we were yesterday." "I will remember," Thalvin promised. The journey back to the Council chambers took 1 week. Thalvin spent that time reviewing his notes. He watched videos of human cities. He read the literature Dr. Park had given him. He looked at the children's drawings. He tried to organize his thoughts into a coherent report. But how could he explain what he had witnessed? How could he put into words the sound of Ansora's last breath, the look in Dr. Shin's eyes as she held her dying patient's hand, the passion in Dr. Han Jiwoo's voice when he spoke of exploring the stars, the simple question from little Minji about whether he had friends? When his vessel docked at the Council station, Thalvin felt something he had not experienced in his 43 previous assignments. He felt uncertain. For the first time in centuries, he did not know what to recommend. The Council chamber was exactly as he remembered it. Dark, vast, filled with representatives from 847 different civilizations. Councillor Prime Zindara stood at the center waiting for him. "Ambassador Thalvin Court," she said formally. "You have completed your assessment of species 7394, designation humanity. The Council awaits your report." Every eye in the chamber turned to him. Every sensor focused on his position. 847 civilizations waited to hear whether this new species would be welcomed or rejected, whether humanity would join the galactic community or remain isolated for another 1,000 years. Thalvin opened his mouth to speak. The words he had prepared were there, organized and logical. He would explain humanity's technological progress, their cultural development, their social structures. He would list their achievements and their flaws. He would present the data objectively and let the Council decide, but the words would not come. Instead, he saw Ansora's face, heard her last words. Telling me matters. He saw Dr. Shin crying beside her patient. Saw teacher Quan Taeyang teaching children to learn through failure. Saw Dr. Han Ji-woo's eyes shining with dreams of touching the stars. Saw Captain Lee Nari watching Earth rotate below, painting the atmosphere in gold and orange. He heard Bae Seoyun asking if he had felt anything. Heard little Minji asking if he had friends. Heard Ambassador Choi saying they were trying to be better than they were yesterday. How could he explain that? How could he quantify it? How could he reduce the essence of humanity to data points and probability assessments? The silence stretched. The council grew restless. Counselor Prime Zendara stepped closer. Ambassador? Your report? Thalvin looked at her. Looked at all of them. These ancient, advanced, perfect civilizations. They had conquered death, eliminated disease, engineered themselves into efficiency. They were logical, rational, superior in every measurable way, and they were empty. They are not ready, Thalvin said finally. The council relaxed. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. This was expected. Most young species needed more time, more development, more guidance. Counselor Prime Zendara nodded. We will quarantine their system for another 500 years, then. You misunderstand me, Thalvin interrupted. They are not ready to join us. The murmurs stopped. Confusion replaced agreement. We are not worthy of them, Thalvin continued. His voice grew stronger. We have lived for thousands of years, but we have forgotten how to truly live. We have eliminated suffering by eliminating joy. We have conquered death by forgetting what makes life valuable. We have achieved perfection by becoming hollow. Ambassador Court, Zendara said sharply. You are not making sense. Explain yourself clearly. I cannot, Thalvin admitted. That is the problem. I cannot explain in words or data what I witnessed on Earth. I cannot quantify the courage of a woman who died saving a stranger's child. I cannot measure the passion of a scientist who worked 70 years to reach the stars he will never live to see. I cannot calculate the value of a teacher who lets children fail so they can learn to succeed. I cannot chart the importance of an artist who creates beauty for no purpose except to feel something real. He paused, looking around the chamber. We have 847 civilizations in this council. And not one of us would do what Ansora did. Not one of us would die for a stranger. Not one of us would sacrifice everything for someone we had never met. Because we have engineered that impulse out of ourselves. We decided it was illogical, inefficient, primitive. And it is, Zendara said. Such behavior reduces survival probability. Yes, Thalvin agreed. It does. But it also creates something we have lost. Something we deleted from our genetic code centuries ago. Something humans still have in abundance. What is that? Thalvin looked at the Counselor Prime, at all of them. These perfect, ancient, immortal beings who had forgotten what it meant to be mortal. Meaning, he said simply, humans die in barely a century. They know this. They live with the certainty of death every moment of their brief existence. And instead of making them afraid, it makes them remarkable. They love harder because they know time is limited. They create more because they know they will not see the end result. They sacrifice themselves because they understand that some things are worth more than survival. The chamber was silent. I resign from my position as ambassador, Thalvin said, and I request permission to return to Earth. Denied, Zendara said immediately. You will remain here and provide a proper assessment. I cannot. Because any assessment I give will be inadequate. Humanity is not ready to join us, Counselor, and we are not ready to meet them. Perhaps in another 1,000 years we will have remembered what we lost. Perhaps by then we will have relearned what it means to be alive. He left the chamber. Behind him, 847 civilizations debated what to do about the strange report from their most reliable ambassador. Some argued for immediate isolation of humanity. Others suggested continued observation. A few, very few, wondered if perhaps Ambassador Thalvin Court was right. 50 years passed. During that time, humanity developed faster than light travel on their own. Dr. Han Jiwoo did not live to see it, but his successor did. They built ships that could bend space itself. They reached out into the galaxy with curiosity rather than conquest. When they encountered their first alien civilization, they did not attack. They did not demand. They simply said hello and asked if they could learn from each other. Word spread. The humans were exploring, and they were different, strange. They cried during first contact. They laughed at setbacks. They formed friendships with species they had just met. They risked their lives to save others. The Galactic Council watched, and slowly, very slowly, began to understand what Thalvin had tried to tell them. In Seoul, an old Velshara sat in a small apartment. He had been living there for 50 years. He had learned Korean. He had made friends. Real friends, the kind Minji had asked about all those years ago. He had cried at funerals. He had laughed at weddings. He had felt pain and joy and everything in between. Beside him sat Dr. Park Min-ho's granddaughter and Captain Lee Nari, now retired and gray-haired. They watched the news together as humanity's first FTL vessel prepared to launch into deep space. "Think they will be okay out there?" the young woman asked. Thalvin watched the ship disappear into the stars. His eyes filled with the same wonder he had first felt when he met these impossible, beautiful mortal creatures. "They will change everything," he whispered.